Well, Kyler Murray had himself quite a weekend, not just with the Heisman winning, but what happened after the fact and the disaster and the debacle that was. I'm Pete Mundo, Heartland College Sports Weekly, part of HeartlandCollegeSports.com. We're your independent Big 12 digital media outlet, whether it's the radio show, the podcast, whatever it might be, YouTube, Facebook Live. Thanks so much for joining us wherever you find us. We're in all those different platforms. So let me say this first off about Kyler Murray winning the Heisman Trophy. What happened after the fact was the biggest embarrassment that the Big 12 has found itself in a long time, not because of anything the Big 12 did, not because of anything Kyler Murray did. No, it had nothing to do with those guys. But because of the hype and the BS nonsensical story that surrounded the Oklahoma quarterback. I mean, this was a damn shame. If you missed the story, here's what happened. So Kyler Murray wins the Heisman Trophy on Saturday night, right? And I'm sitting there, I'm watching it. By the way, can Kyler Murray's dad smile for us? The kid just won the Heisman Trophy. His old man can't crack a smile. It was the weirdest, the strangest thing. But Murray wins the Heisman Trophy. Congratulations to him. OU now has 7 Heisman winners. That's tied for the most with, I think, Ohio State and USC of any program in the country. But then late at night, you're probably fast asleep. It's 1, 2, 3 in the morning. USA Today, the piece of trash USA Today, puts together a article. And the article is pointing out old tweets from Kyler Murray when he was 14, 15 years old. And in these tweets, Kyler Murray uses some, homophobic language is how it's being called. Slang, nasty words to refer to gay people. So they dig up these tweets. USA Today digs up these tweets. Scott Gleason was the guy, grown man, a total loser, digs up these tweets, and he puts together an article. And he says that Kyler Murray tweets resurface in wake of Heisman victory. No. Scotty, nothing resurfaced. You dug them up. You went through Kyler Murray's 4,733 tweets going back 7-8 years to 2010, 2011, where he called himself or he called one of his friends on Twitter. Clearly it was, in jest. Called his friend a gay word, a word, you probably shouldn't use. But he called his friend a word at 14 or 15 years old. You, trying to get yourself ahead in a sports media world that loves being as PC as it can possibly get, then went out there and wrote a little article about what Kyler Murray wrote on Twitter when he was 14 years old and said they resurfaced. They didn't resurface. You resurfaced them because you are a loser and a hack and an embarrassment to journalism, if that's even what you want to call yourself. That's what happened here. So USA Today and Scott Gleason writes this little piece here, right? And he resurfaces these tweets from Kyler Murray from when he was 14, 15 years old. Kyler Murray then responds on Twitter at 2:11 in the morning. And he writes, I apologize for the tweet that has come to light from when I was 14 and 15. I use a poor choice of word that doesn't reflect who I am or what I believe. I did not intend to single out any individual or any group. The end. Okay, you know what? I would not have apologized. He had no need to. Not because I condone using the word. It was the Q word. If you want, I don't know what I can and can't say since this show does air on radio. It was the Q word when it comes to referring to gay people. So is it a word, you want to be using on a daily basis? No. But when you're 14 and 15 years old, if you're going to pick through everything you said at 14 and 15 years old and everything I said at 14 and 15 years old, I guarantee you there'd be some questionable things in there that you would be embarrassed by, that I would be embarrassed by, and that you'd say, geez, wish I didn't say that. Now in 2018 and even back in 2010, guys had Twitter, girls had Twitter, and a lot of the dumb stuff they say is still there. It's disappointing, but let's not kid ourselves. This is what teenagers do. And if you are going to sit here and crucify a kid because at 14 years old he called a friend of his gay and used a word in place of gay, God, get some earmuffs and get a life. okay? Get some earmuffs and get a life, because you're a joke and Scott Gleason's a massive joke. Kyler Murray would have been a good test here because the guy has a multi-million-dollar deal already signed with the Oakland A's. It's not like, I compare this to Dante DiVincenzo, the Villanova star, who had himself a great national championship game against Michigan earlier this year in April, helped the team win the championship. That night, they pull up some old tweets where DiVincenzo is using rap lyrics on his Twitter page, also from when he was like 14, 15 years old. And, there's DiVincenzo's a white guy, and there are some words in there that, the N-word and things like that. Now, he's quoting rap lyrics. He's not calling anybody the N-word, but still, USA Today, ironically enough, the same garbage outlet, puts together an article about how Dante DiVincenzo used these bad words when he was a kid on social media on the biggest night of his life. If you are in the business of trying to ruin the greatest night, what is supposed to be one of the greatest nights of somebody's life, by digging up something they wrote on social media when they were a kid, you got a problem. You have a major problem on your hands. People say to me, oh, this is homophobic. No. Hang on a second here. You're a juvenile, right? I mean, think about it in the eyes of the law. When you do something when you're 14, 15 years old, you're not treated the same as when you're an adult, nor should you. Now, if Kyler Murray used this type of language a week ago, I'd have a much bigger problem with it, because it would tell me you just have bad judgment. That's what it would tell me. Like, you're a grown man now, you're 21, you're 22, you're putting that stuff on social media for thousands of people to see. That's just really poor judgment. Then you can give them a hard time. But the idea that you're going to solve homophobia by pointing out that Kyler Murray called his buddy gay when he was 14, 15 years old on Twitter, please, go to a soup kitchen. Go feed the homeless. Go do something with your life, because you are doing nothing of meaning. You think some homophobe out there is going to be, harassing gay people on a daily basis, and then see an article about how Kyler Murray, when he was 14 years old, called his friend gay on Twitter, and that homophobe is going to say, you know what, I've turned the page. I've totally become a new man, because I realize, after reading this Kyler Murray story, I realize I'm in the wrong. Is anybody going to do that? No, they're not. So I know OU was going to make sure that they kind of took care of this. They were going to make sure that there was some type of apology issued, because they got to protect themselves. They got to protect their own brand. But I would have loved to have seen Kyler Murray just, give the middle finger to this whole thing, because it has been as shameful as anything that any Heisman Trophy winner has had to deal with. There's plenty of bad people out there in the sports world right now. Plenty of people to call out. To call out Kyler Murray on the biggest night of his life because of a tweet that he sent to a friend of his when he was 14 or 15 years old is the worst part of sports journalism today, and there is not a close second. So that story had me so wrapped up over the last few days, and it's a shame that Kyler Murray had to deal with it. It's a shame that USA Today is not getting even more pushback than it got some pushback from fans. But my goodness, not enough. OU fans got on him. Some, just general college football fans said the story was ridiculous, but there were not enough of the quote-unquote major media outlets that saw what was happening here and called it out for the joke that it was, because you cannot in any way look at this and say, wow, USA Today was doing a service in journalism. They weren't. They were looking to get clicks, and this Scott Gleason guy was looking to make a name for himself. That's all this was ever about. Pete Mundo, Heartland College Sports Weekly, part of heartlandcollegesports.com. Thanks so much for joining us, being a part of the show. And coming up, let's get to it. Let's dive into the Kansas State program. They've got a new head coach. We'll talk about Chris Kleeman coming up next, what it means right here on Heartland College Sports Weekly. All right, YouTube, stay tuned. More videos coming your way this week. Right here, subscribe. We appreciate that comment, and we'll talk to you soon on heartlandcollegesports.com.